tell you about something a little sad. So, if you are a real author, you're going to have stuff that ends up on the cutting room floor. Ideas that you had were really cool and you really wanted to do it, and it didn't work out. So, when I was making the first Little Red Wolf book, I knew there were going to be adventures, but I treated them like a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. So I created little scenarios that my characters are going to have to go through. And I was like, okay, they'll go through the Goldilocks and the Three Bears adventure. They're going to go through this type of adventure, that type of adventure. Well, in the second book, it became even a bigger deal because there were these paths. I was like, okay, this path is they're going to go play with pirates. And that would be divided up into two sections. One, you would have the Mos Eisley Cantina City. And two, you would actually have the pirates, which, would lead you in two separate adventures. Okay. And so a lot of that stuff is written as the ideas came to me. And they got rewritten a bunch of times because, I'd write it and I'd look at it and be like, that sucks, and I'd throw it out and I'd try another path. Well, there was one path that prior to doing the pirate adventures, I was thinking that they were going to go do stuff with Robin Hood instead. And the idea was they would go through a Robin Hood adventure, recruit Robin and the merry men, and this would allow them to go forth on their journey together. Now, what happened was the stories fell apart. I got about 5 chapters into the Robin Hood storyline, and I had no idea what to do with the characters. The story wasn't coming to me. I was unbelievably bored. I had a few interesting ideas that I might reuse in a future book or something, but yeah, several chapters. Several weeks of just trying this out and trying that out and trying these other things out. And it didn't go anywhere. And I had a whole thing where I wanted Arthur to be hunting with the merry men, and Robin and Selena would have a bunch of conversations about various things. And it went nowhere. And so I stepped back and I tried the other adventure I had kind of set up, and that one worked. And a good portion of my writing style is you try things until the story starts to move forward. Sometimes that means you leave your darlings on the floor. Sometimes that means a character that used to have a whole bunch of speaking lines has no speaking lines and then gets cut altogether. There's a fairy named Dewdrop that I repurposed for the end of book 2, who originally had a whole bunch of speaking lines, and eventually I think I replaced her with Id. Sidwin, the grumpy gnome who is effectively my buddy's D&D character from back in the day. And it is, by the way. My friends' Dungeons & Dragons characters make little cameo appearances throughout my books. If you encounter a character that's just really interesting and appears to have all this backstory, look at my... But yeah, you get one of these characters that just has so much backstory, and you're like, they're here for 5 minutes and they're gone. Who the heck was that? It's probably a D&D character. Or in the case of Zero Kelvin Cogsworth, that particular character is effectively my World of Warcraft character. My World of Warcraft gnome, whom I changed the name of because I don't want her to become too popular so that I can never use the character again in future games. This character is completely bananas, very funny, very well thought out personality, because I've been playing with this character for a decade before I sat down to write the story. And I gotta gush about my gnomes for a minute, because I created gnomes that effectively treat everything like a circuit board. When they're out on the battlefield, the head gnome is called the processor, and they have a bunch of the sergeants are called resistors that go around preventing the other gnomes from smashing off into the horizon and doing things they shouldn't be doing. And there's a bunch of little terminologies like that where it's like, dude, these are pieces of a circuit board. You know, this might actually be a computer. But that's just the way their organization works. They've got this whole thing about the temple of knowledge. They don't have a fear gland, which is a thing that one of the other characters discovers. It's a bonkers set of ideas that gets really wild. I have the entire dwarf elf society based off of, oh my gosh, World of Warcraft, Ironforge? Yeah, Ironforge. So yeah, it's based off of that. Originally, I was going to base it off of the Mines of Moria, but before I knew it, I was full into Ironforge mode, and went, yeah, sure, I'll just go that way. So, all of these ideas, you build and you build and you build, you cut and you shave, and like a sculptor, you will eventually have to cut away something to release the statue underneath. And sometimes that hurts, but it's necessary.